Chapter 1. Baghdad Childhood. I was born in Baghdad in the early 1980s, the first son in a family that never truly felt like it had a home of its own. We lived in my grandparents' house. My parents, my two younger brothers, Bassam and Ali, and I, all crammed into rooms that always felt too small for the noise, the tension, the weight of life pressing down on us. Outside, Iraq was changing. The Iran-Iraq War had already scarred the country, and soon after came the sanctions of the 1990s. Those years were cruel. Food was limited, opportunities scarce, and the future felt like something only other people could dream about. We were what people called middle class, but middle class meant nothing when shelves were empty and families struggled for survival. Inside our home, survival had another meaning. My father was a man of anger. To him, respect came only through fear. His words were sharp, his hands and tools sharper. A belt, a slipper, a stick, even the cord from an appliance. Anything could turn into a weapon. By the time I was 4, I understood that my father's love, if it existed, was hidden behind discipline that felt like punishment for simply being alive. I remember sitting in our kindergarten classroom, noticing how other children spoke of their parents with warmth, how they ran to them with smiles. I never felt that. With us, everything my parents did felt like a favor, not a responsibility. And yet, as the oldest son, I carried a weight. My brothers didn't. Expectations, fear, the unspoken rule that I must endure the hardest punishments, the harshest words, and somehow still stand tall for Bassam and Ali. One memory still burns as clearly as if it happened yesterday. I was 6 years old. My father came home from work, sweating in the stifling Baghdad heat. His old car had no air conditioning, and the garage had no automatic door. It was our duty as children to run when we heard his horn, to open the heavy metal doors before his patience snapped. That day, the house was full of relatives. My uncles and cousins filled the living room, their voices rising in laughter and conversation. The horn went unheard. My father had to get out of his car and drag the door open himself. By the time he entered the house, his temper was already blazing. "Why didn't anyone open the door?" he shouted, his voice cutting through the laughter. I honked again and again. Even the neighbors must have heard me. I don't know what made me speak. Maybe it was innocence. Maybe it was foolishness. Maybe, deep down, I was desperate to be seen as something other than afraid. So I said, with the blunt honesty of a child, "Who are you, Harun al-Rashid?" The room went silent. In our culture, invoking the name of the great Abbasid Caliph could mean respect. But said this way, it sounded like mockery, as if I were calling him a king demanding servants. I didn't mean it that way. I was only trying to be funny. But there was nothing funny in my father's eyes. His face twisted. His hand went to his belt, and then the strikes came. Hard, fast, unrelenting. Each lash burned against my skin, but what hurt more was the laughter of my cousins, the way their eyes shifted when they looked at me. In that moment, I was no longer just a boy. I was the family's humiliation, the one to mock, the one to put down. From then on, every visit from relatives carried the weight of that moment. My father never missed a chance to embarrass me, and my cousins followed his lead. It wasn't just punishment anymore. It was identity. And that was the day I learned that shame can scar deeper than any whip. My earliest memories are not of toys or laughter, but of lessons burned into my skin. I was only 2 years old when my Uncle Samar invited a friend over for lunch at our house. His friend noticed me, smiled, and handed me a 1 dinar bill for a child. It felt like treasure. I ran to my mother, proud and excited, holding it in my tiny hand. But instead of sharing my joy, her face darkened. She scolded me for accepting something from a stranger. Then she took a sewing needle, placed it over the stove until it glowed and smoked, and pressed it into my hand. I screamed as the pain seared my skin, leaving a permanent scar. "This will make you remember," she said coldly. "Never take anything from someone you don't know." My Uncle Samar was furious. He picked me up in his arms, carried me to the hospital to make sure I was all right, and then took me to buy toys and candy to calm me down. He was the only one in that house who made me feel loved. He was the only one who showed me care. I needed that so badly.